And no, you have not gone to the wrong channel. This is the Icecast Live. My name's Shane Chebsey, and with me this evening is my co-host, Mr. Ollie McNamee. How you doing, Ollie?
I'm all right. Good evening. How are you, Shane?
I'm really good, mate. I've had a really good day, actually, because we hit target on Hedrick
Excellent.
just about 2 or 3 hours ago. We actually bust the target by quite a bit, so it's been a good day. Yeah,
that's
so very excited about that. Yeah.
Has the campaign come to an end now, or is there still some time left?
No, It's come to an end. If you didn't pledge, too late, guys. You missed Hedrick number 2. But obviously, once we've got everything out to all the backers, we will have it on general sale. Once
you always overprint anyway, don't you, Shane?
Yeah,
you know how it goes. Yeah,
always need a few, for conventions and all that sort of stuff. So it will be available after the campaign is, after everything's been sent out. So that's cool. And yourself, are you all right, are you, mate?
Coming to the end of a busy week, but an enjoyable busy week nonetheless. When you're busy, time flies, doesn't it? So yeah, just chilling out, looking forward to the weekend now.
Excellent. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, of course, we're on Thursday. It's always it's sort of like the pre-Friday, isn't it? This tonight. It's like a weird one Thursday. You're sort of almost getting ready for the weekend.
You are now. I have a lot of free lessons tomorrow, so although I've got a lot of marking, like all teachers, I do feel a bit more giddy than I would do about going into school, knowing I haven't got as much teaching to do. Because teaching full time the last 3 days. It can take it out of you mentally.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, I've done a little bit of teaching, but only, in colleges and things like that, sort of part-time. I've never had to do it as a full-time job. And I can imagine, I can only imagine the stress of that job.
It's not that stressful. Remember, I'm no longer head of department. I just go in and teach, and then I do my comiccon.com senior editing stuff when I come home. So it's a nice balance. It's about the same amount of hours I would do if I was running a department or an assistant head or a deputy head. So it's a lot less stress. I enjoy teaching. I've always enjoyed teaching. And I don't have to deal with any of the middle management crap anymore. So it's a win-win. And it means I've got time to do things like this rather than marking books at home like every other teacher seems to do.
It's a big part of the job for a lot of teachers.
It really is, yeah.
Anyway, no one watching gives a shit about that.
No one gives a shit.
So there was a little bit of a clue at the start about, what we're going to be talking about tonight. We have a great guest on the show who has produced a really cool comic that I've recently read. I am ashamed to say I've only recently read it, but that's good because it's fresh in my head.
Yeah,
but it is incredibly influenced by a certain period in TV, a period in TV that I remember very, very fondly. So I think we're probably going to have a little bit of fun while we're talking to our guest tonight, who is, of course, Mr. Dan Butcher of Awesome Comics podcast fame, Vyper, and Vanguard is his other title, which we'll probably talk about as well, because that's been going for a while. And he's one of these guys that can do everything, it seems. He can write the comic, he can draw the comic, he seems to do everything. I'm sure if there was
he's got time to talk to us.
Yeah, I'm sure if there was a theme tune, he'd be singing the theme tune as well. But we will find out. So I was going to tell Dan to do the job then. Sam, can you run that VT, please, mate? And we'll start the show. Not that one. And welcome back to the Icecast Live. And welcome Dan Butcher to the Icecast Live.
Hey, hello.
How you doing, Dan? You all right, mate?
Great, yeah. You had me chuckling away there. on that intro.
But how unprofessional we are by mixing our intro with an 80s intro. Sam, get the sack. Get his P45.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure that though, I don't know about you, Dan, but that intro takes me back to a certain point in my childhood.
Yeah. Saturday stroke Sunday afternoons watching either 18, Automan, all that kind of, all the good stuff.
That's it, all good stuff. When bad guys were bad guys and good guys were good guys.
Yes, no grey areas. You was a good guy, he was a bad guy. Yeah.
Of course, I mean there were some not so great aspects of that period in time.
Yes, yeah.
But you know, you're obviously very influenced by it, and your book that we're talking about tonight, Vyper, is totally taken from that period. Obviously, it's very intentional. There's like a bit of pastiche going on there. But would you say as well that, you know, this is the sort of comic, this is the sort of story, personally, you actually really enjoy yourself?
Oh, I really enjoy it. Yeah, love reading it, making it. Like the main character is a bit of a misogynist, and you can kind of get away with that when you're doing like these period pieces, because having going back and watching, like I watched Airwolf, Street Hawk, and Summer Night Rider.
That's a good one.
To kind of get my head around, like, well, how do these work? How do these series function? And every episode, like the main dude is just an absolute, like, just coming out dropping sexism, homophobia, it's just everything. It's like
terrible.
Bloody hell, okay. And at the time, it's just like didn't get any of that, didn't clock it. But we've changed so much that it's now like, oh, okay. So Brighton Hero is a bit of an arsehole. It's great fun.
And it, like you say, it gives you that free license to have a bit of fun with it, doesn't it? And you know, and your tongue's firmly in cheek.
Exactly, and like the jokes often on him at times and stuff.
Yeah,
it's fun to sort of exploit. And like you kind of look back at that period of the 80s, and like you said, the good guys are the good guys, the bad guys are the bad guys. And when I was more of that age, you just see
design fight urban crime.
Oh, there we go.
Nice bit of Street Hawk.
Miles an hour and immense firepower. Only one man, Federal Agent Norman Tuttle, knows Jesse Mark's true identity. Man, machine, Street Hawk.
I've got to say, out of all of them, I think Street Hawk is more influential on Vyper than maybe some of the others.
Yeah.
But
well, even like on the intro there, like your intro to the comic, there's like only one person knows their identity. This is the Federal
that's
Agent,
pretty much it. Yeah.
Who happens to be also in a very sort of Knight Rider-ish looking base, and it's kind of borrowed some all the bits you kind of remember, and then I've kind of also nicked bits from, not nicked, but kind of homage stuff from 80s action films, and kind of dunked them in there. So it sort of plays with kind of what you know, but it has fun at the same time. I didn't want it to be too complicated. You know what I mean? No. It's not like, just fun. But it works. You've got your story beats down really well. I mean, it just follows that classic 80s action formula. You know, you've got the view in with the new Rookie. You know, I mean, I'm talking about the book I've read, which is the last issue where we haven't seen the new one yet.
No.
Which we're going to talk about. But I love the way that, you know, it's Lopez, isn't it? The character that comes in, and she's like the Rookie, but she's also the view in for the reader. Yeah. She's sort of like the cynical view in as well at times. And I really enjoyed that.
I kind of meant her to be like the more real character in it. The others are a bit sort of like cartoony in a way, but she's kind of like a more grounded, real person, like viewing this kind of wacky universe as it sort of plays out. But yeah, you're along with her for the ride. It's kind of, I did that first issue, so imagine like the first episode of a TV series where you get to know everything about it, and from then on, every episode you watch, everything jumps back to the status quo of you can watch any episode of Knight Rider, Street Hawk, and it doesn't matter. Like saying Quantum Leap, you just jump in and have fun.
Well, I think that was a big party of. I remember in the 80s very much, they would just put any old show on in any old order. And like you say, Dan, I think that was part of the beauty of those shows, that, you know, beyond avoid the misogyny and all that. But the fact is you could literally watch them in any order, and there was no story arc across the series. Like you say, everything. And I know this trope has been played with a lot of times, even in The Simpsons. Everything goes back to, like you say, the original status quo.
Yeah.
I do like, it's something comforting.
Yeah, you can just jump in at any point, and it's kind of like you kind of know what you're going to get. It's not like now where you have to jump into series. If series 5 is running, you've got to go all the way up to 1.
Yeah, it's not lost, is it?
No, no, not at all. But I guess it's kind of those kind of super vehicle shows. There was we were a society, more American, so enamored with like cars and vehicles and stuff. And I don't know if we've moved away from that, but that was like a big thing about like having the big sports car and all that kind of stuff. But if
or I
like,
wonder maybe it's just one of those things that because Knight Rider was popular, it was like, right, what can we turn into a talking vehicle now?
Exactly.
Let's do a motorbike. Yeah. And I think certainly you got that with the X-Files in the 90s as well, with all of these different shows like Dark Sky, just repeating that formula and hoping
what works,
for success.
Yeah,
of course.
I mean, if the 80s have gone on any longer, we'd have probably got, talking scooters and things like that. But thankfully, it didn't
talking
go that
pogo
far.
sticks.
Yeah,
they seem to like they saw things in pop culture and it's like, right, how can we make this into TV? Like with that Automan, I think that Glenn A. Larson said, "I saw Tron. Can we have Tron as a TV series?" And then we got Automan. It's kind of like the special effects a bit on a budget.
I think that was Glenn A. Larson's whole way of working, wasn't it? I've seen some of it. Let's make a cheaper version.
Yeah, I've seen Star Wars. Let's do Battlestar Galactica. Yeah. But it was his own thing, though. That's why, and I loved all the way that it was always like the same footage that was used every week.
Yeah.
Well, let's be fair to Glenn A. Larson on Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica. Yeah. He did have Ralph McQuarrie working on his show. Yeah. That will explain why there were so many similarities between. I'm sure there's other reasons, but certainly from a design point of view, if you've got Ralph McQuarrie coming off Star Wars, he's going to be similarly minded on another show of that ilk.
Yeah. I kind of Battlestar was never a great one.
No. It got worse when they finally got to Earth, and you had that whole series where they're just running around Los Angeles.
There we go.
Flying on the flying motorbikes.
I'll turn the sound down so we can carry on talking.
There we go. That car belonged to the chap Glenn A. Larson, the Lamborghini, and he was really I watched his making of, and he was really protective of it. As he would be.
Why did he let them drive it then if he was really protective of it?
I think that was the only thing they had to use it in the show. So it was like they put that tape around it, the reflective tape, and then away you go.
Oh, that was a good bit of misogyny then.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
A sentient light looking at a woman's bosom.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where you are in the universe. Women's breasts are great, aren't they? Even if you're an energy life form or whatever. Oh, thanks for that, Sam.
So did you find yourself going back to these, Dan, then, as research for or was it very much in your head already, those heady days of the 80s?
I had an idea, like, maybe I could do it. It'd be fun if I did this. And then I went back and then looked at it and watched them and tried to get from it what they did. Narratively and what kind of worked and how we could kind of use it and manipulate it to tell the story I wanted. Like some of them are so bizarre. Like you get filler episodes like in Airwolf where Stringfellow Hawk the pilot gets approached by like these Vietnamese people who are getting their trouble getting their products from where they make it to the market, and they're getting harassed by a motorcycle gang. It's like you've got an attack chopper that can blow up tanks. And he's going to take out like these gangs on bikes. Is a little bit overkill. You're not kind of pitching that story right. It should be sort of Cold War stuff. And
I think those writers probably did Boba Fett, didn't they?
Yeah.
Similar plot. Talking of videos, there is a video for your new comic, isn't there, Dan?
The Vyper 2's got a bit of a story behind it. So maybe we'll watch the video and then we can go into the ups and downs of
talk a bit about it.
Boogly.
Can we play that, please? Great stuff.
That is slick as fuck. I really like that. I really like that. And that typeset, oh my God.
So the story with this was, I've had this kind of pretty much ready to go from the end of last year. It was all pretty much all done. And Russia decided to go onto the border of Ukraine. And I was like, oh, fuck. Because essentially I thought, right, one of the main bad guys you always set up in 80s action films is the Russians, Soviets. Yeah. So the Cold War. So I thought, right, in this one, they're going to be the Vyper team versus the Soviets. They're going to like invade or something like that. So I wrote this story, had it, drew it up, it was ready to go. Bits and bobs left to do, but I was pretty much there. And then Ukraine started rolling on, and I took a bit of advice from people and said, look, I'm going to just sit on this and wait how it plays out. And then we know how it plays out. So like a couple of months ago, I thought, right, I can't sit on this forever. I've got to kind of move forward with it. So where it was originally,
because this war's never going to finish, is it?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of what's going to happen. I could sit on another 6 months. Could sit on it for years. No. So it was originally to be called Vyper Soviet Strike. So I thought, well, I'm going to have to drop that. And I went through a lot of the book and dropped like a lot of the Soviet iconography and just try and like toned it down a little and renamed it Crimson Dawn, which is kind of a bit of a nod to Red Dawn. I really like the title Soviet Strike, but I had to knock it on the head. So it's a matter of kind of like getting it through Kickstarter at the moment and trying to get it onto their platform.
So is that what's caused? I mean, if you okay to talk,
I can go on it. There's I'm helping out with someone else's campaign and using my bank account for their project. So until that campaign's fulfilled, I cannot put this one on. And I've tried to appeal it, but I can't.
They're pretty strict, aren't they?
Yeah. I said I'm nothing to do with this, really. I'm just using my bank account, but they won't hear it.
Yeah. So. Are you only allowed to do one campaign at a time then, Dan?
Yeah.
Right.
They won't allow multiples. I didn't realise that. I really thought it was just...
Yeah. I mean, they look at the bank. I mean, you can have multiple accounts, but they'd have to have a different bank.
Yeah. I went... Because I've submitted the project and they put it into review, I can't go and amend the details, so I can't change the bank account now to a different one. I didn't realise that, so I'm kind of locked in. And if I don't get it launched soon, I don't know if I will, because I'm going to have to leave it till next year, because if it falls between December, New Year, all the prices change and I could be left up.
Have you looked at other places like Zoop? Because we had one of the co-founders of Zoop on. That seems to be very much a new sort of crowdfunding platform. I mean, I was very enamoured by what he had to say. He's a guy with a small team. They're very new on the market, but I think in the world of comics, it's a growing name. So I'd certainly maybe look at Zoop, because we discussed how Indiegogo has been tainted by the Comicsgate crowd, but Zoop seems to be a very viable platform. And from what I understand, the whole setup just looks like a shop where you almost pick and choose the add-ons that you want. You'd have to completely think your whole model of presenting your comic, Dan, but it does seem to be a very viable option if you're getting frustrated at the moment with time running down on Kickstarter.
They're a lot more flexible as well,
and they're very easy to contact. They will the main people behind it will contact you within 24, 48 hours. They are hungry.
Okay, maybe I might turn that. I'll go and take a look at that then.
It's worth having a look, mate. Definitely,
I guess you guys were there's like being creators or yourselves, like trying to kind of invest so much time in promoting your work, making your work, looking for places to sell your work. It's just, it can get exhausting. It's just, there's so much stuff to do.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing it a while now, haven't you? When did you start? Because was Vanguard your first solo book?
I'd done bits and bobs of like artwork on other people's books, but I thought my Vanguard was my first kind of proper one, as it were. And that was, God, that's like 14, 15 years ago I started that.
Wow.
It's rolling round to a finish. I've got like 3 or 4 issues left, and that's the end of the story. So I didn't really expect it to go on this long, but here we are. You just keep making it until you're done, I guess. I've got a
But
real thing
it's
about
done
leaving
well,
readers
hasn't
in
it?
the
You know,
lurch.
nice little following.
Yeah, it seems to be doing okay. I mean, just try and consistently update. Just try and tell your story, get to the end. I've improved a lot of my craft for both writing and art since I started. I do look back at some of the old stuff and think, oh, Christ almighty, but you can't beat yourself up.
No,
I'm
sure
moving.
every creator, even Alan Moore, probably looks at his early stuff and thinks, what was I thinking? So I think that's just part of growing up in the industry and in the comic world that we love so much.
I mean, people say about going back and redoing stuff, and I think that's an absolute trap you got to avoid.
Yeah.
Because once you start doing that, you start George Lucas in your past.
Yeah.
When do you stop?
George Lucas in. I like the way George Lucas has become a third. That's good. But it's true. It's very true. I mean, obviously, the most famous example of going back and tinkering and then not moving forward is George Lucas, you know.
Yeah.
And in the music world, it's the same as well. These guys keep going back and redoing albums, and just move on.
Well,
just keep going
to be fair on the Beatles, that's all they can do is remaster stuff.
Yeah, like I said, if you're spending time kind of sorting out your old work and revamping it, you're not creating something new. Just keep moving forward.
Exactly.
Well, I must admit, I do find it interesting that Mark Buckingham has gone back and redrawn all of the Miracle Man issues that he'd done some 30 odd years ago. Because obviously as an artist, he's changed so much. So it's the same script, but it's different artwork. It's slightly different layouts, and it's done by someone who's got 30 more years of experience under his belt, and it really shows. So that's one of the few occasions where I think but the thing is, if you were still going back and tinkering, we wouldn't be looking at this cracking cover of Vyper now.
Exactly. Yes. I can't take credit for this one. This one's done by Rob Carey, who he was running a competition on Twitter, which I won. He still does to this day. Like, he offers, I'll do a comic, a cover for a small press comic. And he took the pictures and he liked mine, and he did this. And the second page, there's another cover. He said, I did two, but I prefer this one. So I was like,
so cool, isn't it?
Oh wow!
So, he done really well on that. I did really. That would have cost me, so I'm well chuffed with that.
You did really well, mate. And I love the color schemes, especially on the first one. It's like, you know, it's so 80s, isn't it? All those purples and blues and
try and keep with that sort of the synthwave aesthetic and like have purples, pinks, blues.
That's it. Something else I love about Vyper as well is how, you know, the name is, there's a massive clue in his name that he is Vyper. Yeah. Nobody gets it. No. You know, I think, what's his name? Viperoni or something.
Viperini.
Viperini.
He's got a V on his belt as well. Kind of like,
it's like, oh, that's great stuff.
Because
that's what you do in the 80s.
Yeah, that's what you do.
I love that. I love the fact.
In this book, I kind of like a lot of it's set at night, and in the second book, I've gone to a lot of it's set in the afternoon, evening, so you get more of a kind of a red orange color palette, like sunset. So there's a big
Miami
action
Vice style.
Exactly, yeah. So
I thought this reminded me a little bit of that. You know, the color schemes were a bit Miami Vice, and it also reminded me. I don't know if you know this movie, Dan. The Exterminator. Do you remember that? I loved that movie at the time, and it's a pretty, you know, it's a bit of a shocker, sort of cheap revenger, you know. But he's
the one that turns up with a flamethrower and just hoses people down. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, it's a really violent film. I watched it on Betamax when I was a kid, you know.
Well, okay, yeah.
And I'm probably far too young to watch it.
God, that's going back. If you're watching on Betamax,
yeah, we had a.
Did you have a top loader as well?
Yeah, it was a top loader Betamax.
Wow,
I tell you what, I've gone
going back.
You go back to a lot of the 80s films, and when I remember watching them when I was younger, think, God, this is really hard hitting. This is really rough. And you watch them now, and they're nothing more than like a kids' cartoon with like swearing and blood effects.
Yeah,
a lot of it's really like
ridiculous, isn't it?
It's really basic writing. It's just like, here's the bad guy, he gets killed by the good guy, and you're like, okay, this is fine.
Well, I know a lot of the video nasties that are, you know, the sort of things you get from your mates in school, and they were copies of copies of copies.
Yeah.
So they're already quite grainy to begin with. Of course, they were all banned, but the minute DVD became a viable format, all of these films had to go back through the censors again. And 10, 15 years later, people thought, now this is not gory whatsoever.
No.
And then suddenly they all popped up. And everyone watched and thought, actually, it's not as good as I thought, is it?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's a definite case of rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah,
a lot of
It's
stuff.
better in your
And
memory
did you have
than it
that?
is, isn't it? Yeah.
Did you have that going back to watching some of these older shows then? Because, I mean, I think we knew they were pretty cheesy at the time, but as a younger kid looking at these things, you bought it and there was nothing else to compare it with other than other cheesy programs. So did you find some of them were less memorable than others when you went back down?
Yeah, when I was rewatching a lot of it, I was like kind of picking bits out. So no, just try and enjoy it for what it is. But like a lot of it, it's just like, why are they doing that? Why is this doing that? That wouldn't work. And just like I remember watching Knight Rider and like as a kid, totally buying all the technology. And it's a bit like Michael Knight's trying to get into a locked door, and he says, "Oh, Kit, can you do anything with the lock?" And then the lock opens up, and I was like, how did that happen? What's happened? Nothing's being affected. I don't understand how the lock's just opened up.
It's great, isn't it? And they get away with it. Nobody really cared too much. I mean, now
I suppose it's the same like Silver Age comics. Yeah, here we go. And of course, you had Evil Michael Ryder, didn't you, with the moustache?
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, bloody hell.
See what I mean? It's just...
dear.
That I recently was watching Knight Rider, and I didn't clock this when I was a kid, but the bad Michael Knight, who's what's his name? Garth.
Was it Garth?
He's like
I can't remember that.
He's like the wayward son of the Knight Institute's founder.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, hold on. And so they brought Michael Knight in, who used to be Michael Long, giving him facial reconstruction to make him look like the wayward son. Yeah. How fucked up is that?
Now that's a retcon, if ever I knew one. And the lorry was called Goliath, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He drove this massive.
Wow, well remembered.
Yeah, what do you on about? I still watch it.
See, I don't watch it. You see, I barely remember. I watched it when it was on in the 80s, but I was never into cars, so it wasn't my bag. I was more into stuff like Houston, which was clearly a cheap rip-off of Magnum. I don't know if either of you two remember Houston.
I don't remember that. No,
just remember
big
that.
Texas oil magnate living in Texas. Because he was so rich, he just solved crimes.
Yeah, and
it lasts about 1 or 2 seasons.
Talking of moustaches and Magnum, we've got a comment here from Gigo17. Is Dan going full Magnum with that tash?
Yeah, I'm growing a moustache. It's kind of upset a few individuals. So, including my wife. So
November, is it, mate?
No, it's absolutely nothing to do with.
You just want to look cool.
Yes. Well, I try my best.
Another comment from Ian Ashcroft. Looking forward to Vyper, Dan. The video is great.
Cheers, Ian. Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, how was that put together? Because it seems to be there seems to be some CGI, and of course the images from the forthcoming book. That looks like a lot of hard work to put that together.
It was tricky. I mean, I always wonder about how much effort you put into these video promos to how much they actually bring in the punters. Do you know what I mean? How much does that sway people?
Yeah.
Is some, I know a little 3D, so there's some 3D in there. I got a hand from my mate Kieran to do he amended some GTA models, modded them to make them look like the car. So we've got bits of that in there.
Oh, cool.
There's bits of footage I've kind of nicked out of trailers, stuck them in there and filtered them and flipped them. And
yeah,
it did take a fair bit of time, and not too much though. But hopefully if people see that kind of like the video and kind of get an idea, oh yeah, this is for me, and back the comic. Yeah.
It definitely gives you a good idea of what the content is. You know, it's not misleading in any way. Let's
no. I said a lot of the stuff like there's be a lot of people who come into this who won't have any of these kind of experience that we have with this kind of material. So I always wonder what that potential reader would get out of this. So in the second book, Crimson Dawn, there's 2 Russian twins, one male, one female, and they've got like a scientist held hostage, and they're forcing him to make a nuclear bomb which they're going to take over to America, but he's refusing to do so. And the only way they've got leverage on him is his estranged daughter, who now lives in Los Angeles. And the only bit of knowledge they've got is that she's at this beauty contest. So the Russians go undercover at this beauty contest.
There's always a beauty contest.
Yeah, a beauty contest. So they go undercover, and it's like a race to find the daughter to see who can get her first, and it all goes from there. But yeah,
now, when you say undercover, by any chance does the sister in the twins end up being in the competition?
I don't want to give too much away. She's part of the
that
competition.
always happens, doesn't it? Yeah.
She's part of the competition. Yeah, it's kind of like how they find out about what's going on. They kind of, something happens at the beginning of the comic, and they're like, right. So I tried to do like in the TV shows where you get like a one-page intro of like, oh no, this is what this episode's going to be about. Then you get like that credits page of whatever, who does what, and then you're into the story. So there's like a stinger page where they set up, right, well, now we're going to attack America, and then it cuts to the credits, and away you go. But yeah, our heroes have to kind of, one of them has to go in as a model, and Vyperini goes in as a makeup artist.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So he's camping it up, I guess.
He gets told he's working undercover as like this famous gay Italian makeup artist, and he's not to break cover under any circumstances. So he's kind of he's in trouble. Yeah,
I can imagine being very much a hero of the 80s. I can imagine how frustrated he must be around all of those beauty contestants and having to act the part of a gay man.
Oh, it's brilliant.
He doesn't take it too kindly when he's told. Yeah.
No.
But again, we have to emphasise it is all done tongue-in-cheek, more of a homage and a pastiche rather than, because you don't know in this day and age, because people can watch something and totally out of context not get it. And if anyone's coming into this show now halfway through, they could be
look at this.
Yeah, what are these guys like? Yeah.
Beauty contests and gay makeup artists and laughing about it.
It's those shows, like kind of looking back at the shows, like they had stuff like this all the time. Like every reason there was like to find girls in swimsuits. Oh, let's go down to the beach. Let's do this, do that. It's like literally just to get skin on show. And it's like,
I remember the Fall Guy. You had that young woman who lived with him, and she literally just seemed to stand around in a bikini.
Yeah, she never had anything on.
It was like, what do you actually add to this?
Yeah.
Well, I know what she added.
Yeah.
As an 11 or 12-year-old boy, I knew exactly what she added to.
And that was the target audience, of course.
Yeah. And I think I still watched it because it was Lee Majors, the Bionic Man. Yeah, that's why I watched it.
Yeah,
man. Cool. Fall Guy came out the other day, and people were just absolutely raving about it. I must have slept on that. I didn't watch too much of the Fall Guy.
Really?
I do remember the banging theme song. I'm the
Stuntman. It was brilliant, wasn't it? It was brilliant.
Makes Eastwood look so fine.
Yeah, man.
It was great. And of course, I love the in your comic as well. The little adverts, between the chapters.
Yes,
they're really cool.
I tried to do like a TV show, so you have breaks. Like you have a little bit, then there's like a kind of spoof advert, a little bit more. There's like a NES game, I think, for the TV series that you can buy that they got an advert for that. And
really cool.
Here we go.
Here we go.
With like 8-bit graphics and all that sort of stuff. It's fantastic. Well, obviously, we're never ever going to be able to monetize this episode, so we've given up on that now.
No, given up on that.
That's the one. Yeah. It's flares. Oh gosh.
Yeah, it wasn't that 80s, was it?
No. We forget how many 70s fashions went through to the 80s.
Bled over.
Yeah, they really did. And the amount of stock footage that used to get used.
They used to be used a lot of stock footage for all the different shows.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Different shows.
There's a famous one in 18 where like they took from, I think it was one of the Rambo films of like the helicopter blowing up. And then they make the point in the episode say, no, it crashes like into the hill and down on the ground and blows up. And then there's a shot of all the people crawling out of the helicopter going, oh! It's like, there's no way.
No one ever died.
That is a classic. Yeah. Everyone was like, somebody's died in the A-Team. Oh, no. But yeah, it was a great time. And the other thing I really noticed in your comic, which was a good observation as well, was that police chiefs have a unhealthy preoccupation with the health of their arses.
Yeah. In that one, it's like they all seem to have like a gimmick, like he'll be shouting and do this and that. And this one is quite disgusting. He's just like his desk is just loads of arse medication, and he's constantly scratching, smelling, and the two heroes are absolutely like, God.
Yeah. It's just, it really cracked me up.
How many drafts of a sketch? Because it seems to be like you put a heart and soul into this. How many drafts of the script are you doing for issue 2, for example, Dan? Where you're having so much fun with it? I mean, I suppose there's always got to be a deadline, but is there ever a time when you go back and I wouldn't mind adding this last little bit, this last little joke, this last little one-liner?
A lot of it has to get hacked away. I mean, there's so much stuff you come up with and you think, oh, this is really good, but like it doesn't push the story forward. It doesn't serve a purpose. And it can't be in there just because it's funny or a cool moment, if you know what I mean. It's got to serve the story. And if it doesn't do that, it's got to go, unfortunately. I imagine as most writers, you have to cut way more out than you put in.
And sometimes you can use it later on, can't you? In another chapter or in another story. The idea's there and you find, oh, I can use that old idea there. You know,
I've got some of my scripts where like all the overmatter are dumped down the bottom. And I've gone over them and I go, that ain't too bad. Did I even fucking write that? I don't even remember writing that. And
you get so involved in it, there's no recall.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. I found with this, I kind of had to put myself in a certain mindset. So we're in the downtime when I'm trying to get this sorted out with Kickstarter. Right, I'll flesh out the next issue of Vanguard, the script. I'm sitting there writing it. It's like, oh, I can't get into the headspace for this. I need to kind of get Vyper out, and then I can kind of refocus on doing this project. I don't know how multiple writers do different titles. It seems beyond me, because that's a skill that eludes me.
It's a big juggling match, isn't it? The amount you've got to keep in your head for each character, and then all the subplots and all of this sort of, I can imagine.
If you had tonally had like a really light book and then a really heavy book on the go at the same time, the writing, the thought process you got to be into write each one of them. Especially if you're very immersed in it yourself, you know, if you get into it, you know, it's hard to sort of come out of that and then look at something else of a totally different tone, isn't it? Because you wouldn't want one bleeding into the other, for example. That would be like,
no, definitely not. We've got a few more comments from is that Kijo 17. The worst was finding out that the Dukes of Hazzard car jumps were done with miniatures. Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for that.
I did not know.
You ruined it for me. Oh.
I know they used to jump like shells of cars. You can see them often in Night Rider and everything. It's like a shell that they're shooting off. So they can't afford to write off a Trans Am every 2 episodes.
No. They got the budget for that. Another comment from Jester Diablo Tabletop Gaming. I want a Vyper action figure set. It would be like Mask on Crack.
I would love that, Vince, if we got a Vyper action figure set.
Oh god, that would be really cool, wouldn't it? Somebody, somebody somewhere is probably up for doing that, mate. You need to put it.
I did dress up in. You can see in the back of the comic with the one of the cons we went to. I did a bit of cosplay as it and made. I'll see if I can angle the camera up. If you can see it, there's a helmet.
Oh yeah.
And
we can see the Vyper design on the helmet, just about those teeth. Yeah, man.
Let's get him on solo. What's Sam doing? Put Dan on solo, Sam.
Well, Dan's on mute at the moment. Does he know that?
Don't know.
So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's have a look.
We'll get a better look at it now. Oh, what's Sam doing?
I don't know.
There we go. Oh, cool. So that lights up.
Yeah. So I got it light. Wow. See if I can turn this light off and give it a bit better look. So I kind of contrast. I don't use it apart from that. It's just kind of stuck in.
So you don't use it in the bedroom, Dad?
Yeah, no. Yeah, the wife's not keen.
Oh, there we go. There's a picture of full cosplay. Thanks, Sam. That's really cool.
Oh, there's Pete Good Enough.
Yes. Go Pete Gene Pool. So yeah, I kind of
Gene Pool. Sorry, yeah, Gene Pool. Yeah.
I rocked up on the day with the costume and kind of like my mate Tony was saying, "Oh, I knew you was up to something."
That is so good. And one of the things I wanted to ask Dan as well was because it's about a car as well as all the other characters. There's a lot of car stuff in there. Did you find it quite challenging to mix up how you do the storytelling with like car chases and things like that?
Yeah, I tried. Man, that's hard because a lot of the car stuff is 3D model stuff that you kind of incorporate into the drawing, and it's an absolute art form in itself. In trying to get static car shots to look like it's moving and driving. I've kind of pushed it a bit more in the second book from the first, trying to get that to work. I mean, for me, if you really want the best people that are doing that, it's like looking at manga artists.
Yeah, they're good at it, aren't they?
The sort of the kinetic action they can get in car scenes, like from Initial D and stuff like that, is fantastic.
I enjoyed Bengal on Rick Remender's Death and Glory. That was one that made static cars look like they're moving with very few speed lines involved. It was more the blurring of the artwork at certain points on the figures. But Bengal's such a consummate, brilliant artist anyway. His whole style is very minimalistic to begin with. It's that economy of line, less is more. So certainly, I would certainly recommend Death and Glory.
I had a couple of pages of that, like saved from the car bits, because they're just like he gets the weight of the cars and then moving and sliding around, and like it's not just static on the four wheels. The whole chassis is moving. It's just gets all the energy and
it is amazing stuff, isn't it? There we go. I love that. Look at that Bullet homage cover.
That's a beauty.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a good recommendation, that, Ollie. Thank you for that.
Definitely. I dare say it's in trade because it's like one of those finite storylines. And I believe, Dan, you're very much of the belief that to get, that kind of status quo, each comic you're doing, like issue number 1 and issue 2 coming out, these are all done in one stories, are they?
Yeah. You can pick up any one of these and you don't need to get the second book to read the first, and vice versa. They sit on their own. It's like we said, those episode TV, you jump in, there's your comic, it's got a beginning, middle, and end, and then you're away.
Yeah.
I think it's a real struggle for creators to do crowdfunding with a comic series that carries on 1, 2, 3, 4, because it seems to be like the diminishing returns. Everyone wants to be there for issue 1.
That's an interesting point you make there. That's because I've actually found, I have found that is true currently. Like with Hedrick, it wasn't a diminishing return, but it's stayed the same pretty much. But I've talked to a lot of Kickstarter creators who've said the exact opposite and said that they've managed to build their audience with every issue.
That's
not like it's not like the direct market where it's diminishing every issue like considerably. They've actually built it because new people are coming on board. They're selling them the bundles of all the issues when they get on board. So their campaigns have actually increased.
It might be more of a pervasive attitude like of a couple of years ago, but definitely with Kickstarters now. If you crowdfunding, if you set up a good name for yourself and you deliver a good product, people will come back because they know you can do what you're saying you can do. Yeah. So then it might be a change around there that they will come back. I just feel like sometimes people get put off when they see issue 3 and say, I haven't got issue 1 or 2, or maybe I won't back this. But if you did just gave every book a subheading, even though they were sequential, they don't know no different. And
I think that's probably the key, isn't it? I mean, we did have a few people in our Kickstarter sort of say, how many issues is this? How long is it going to go on? And things like that, excuse me. And I think it's making it very clear, isn't it, that if you are doing a continuing series, that when you pledge for like issue 2 or 3, you can get the previous issues. You can jump on at any time and just buy the series. I think that's the thing to get across to people.
You have them as add-ons or whatever. And I mean, I don't know about you guys. I've read so many issue 1s from small press creators. Yeah. And then there's never an issue 2. I'm not hating, just I think it's sometimes better to do like one and dones and just like, here's a story. Get it out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you started Vanguard, was there an intention there to have a long running series the way it turned out? Or did you just sort of say, I'm going to do issue 1 and then I might do issue 2 but it just happened to sort of carry on?
Well, I kind of had an arc in mind, but it was I started as a webcomic. So I had no really I could make an issue 5 pages long, I can make it 60 pages long. It's kind of, I wasn't really doing it for print. I thought I'd keep it around 20, 30 pages and just kind of told the story. And I started it when I was a single man with no children, no wife. And then when you got all the time in the world, and as you get more and more responsibilities, you're like, oh, okay, I've got to try and jam this in now. So it's kind of a juggling act, but just try and manage your time to get done what you can get done.
Yeah. And how do you manage your time, Dan? Is it sort of something that you just do in the evenings or the weekends, or do you have a rigid timetable, or is it just when you can?
When it was more doing the webcomic stuff, I updated Wednesday, Fridays, so I have to have certain things done on certain pages by a certain time. Otherwise, say Sunday goes past and it's like I've not done the penciling for Wednesday, so I'm in shit now. I've got to put my foot down and get it done. I'll be starting the webcomic back up next year, so I've got to get back into that.
All right.
So yeah, you kind of a kind of production schedule or production timeline is really handy. I think that's generally for all projects, if you can kind of get that down.
Yeah, and discipline. It's being disciplined, isn't it? And saying, I've got to get this done now. I think whether you're doing it full time or part time, I think if part time, even more so, maybe, because you've got less time to play around with. You have to be really, really disciplined with how you plan.
I think all this stuff flows from disciplining yourself to kind of get the work done, get it the way you want it to be, and get it out in a good time. I mean, stuff happens, like it's happened with Vyper 2. I couldn't tell Putin to fucking chill out. But do you know what I mean? I can think of someone apart from yourself, you bastard. But you just kind of got to get it done. Quit procrastinating and get the work done.
That is the killer, isn't it? Procrastination. I know that's something I fight with all the time, and because obviously, being a publisher, you have to be very productive all the time, and it's difficult if you procrastinate. And I think, some of us, creative people are prone to procrastination. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, if I get kind of cranky and I don't realize it, if I've not been drawing or creating, I just kind of fall off and kind of like, oh man, this ain't getting right. And then as soon as you kind of pick up the pencil and start drawing, it just goes, and you're like, oh, fuck me, that's what I needed. It's like an itch to scratch, and once it's done, you're like, oh, I'm back at it now. I'm not sure if that's a massive wave of guilt to send carry on fucking drawing.
But it's incredible, isn't it? You don't realise that you're missing it until you do it. And then, everything seems to work out, and your brain sort of switches into a different gear, doesn't it, while you're actually drawing or writing or anything like that? Because you go into a different place, I think.
It's akin to being really thirsty and then, think it's a revolutionary idea when you have a glass of water. You think, I feel great now. Why didn't I do that 10 minutes ago? It's like, because you were putting it off for some stupid fucking reason.
Well, we've got a couple more
usually
comments.
For no reason.
Yeah, no reason.
Yeah,
no
reason. That's it.
That's the worst thing.
Yeah.
When hours have gone by, I still haven't started. Now I do feel crap about myself.
Jodie was a top detective in cut off denim shorts. What more do you want? Is that a Fall Guy reference?
I think it was. What else have we got here? Did Dan go back and check out those comic strip adaptations of the 80s shows in magazines? Like Look In or those 80s annuals we all had? Good question.
I did. I bought a Street Hawk annual from eBay.
Whoa.
Oh, man, it was such a letdown.
I think I might own that.
What were you expecting?
I don't know what I was expecting, but it was kind of just, it wasn't so much of a comic. It was like written
text
things
stories,
and mazes and stuff like that. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
it seemed to be like one of those things they kind of knocked together just to kind of cash.
Was it a Grand Dreams?
Every annual back in the 80s.
Was it the Grand Dreams? Wasn't it the company that did those?
It might be. I don't know. Might have to check on that. I did have a friend that what do you call it? David Hasselhoff was signing in near where we were, and he got a Knight Rider annual and had it to get in sign it. And he said, if I find this on eBay, I'm coming to find you.
Brilliant.
He kept the annual. He wasn't going to. He wasn't
No,
there to kind of flog it.
I'd
Yeah,
never want to
no.
sell that. Now, that's a unique thing, isn't it?
Exactly,
A Knight
yeah.
Rider album signed by Knight Rider. I mean,
Can't go
why
wrong.
would you want to sell that? That's priceless.
Yeah, there are some unscrupulous individuals out there though that.
Of course there are,
do
yeah.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
And it spoils it for the majority of people who just want a memory of meeting that person. That's what I see autographs like nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, whenever I feel like a bit of a saddo God, here I am asking someone for an autograph. They go, hold on a minute, I'm doing this. So the next time I pick that comic up, that'll transport me back to that particular comic convention at that particular moment. That's what it is for me nowadays.
Man, those Looking covers had a real design about them, didn't they?
They were very cool.
Yeah.
I loved Looking. I've still got a few actually. A lot of them are cut up because I took I used to take the posters out.
Yeah, the double page posters.
Yeah, all over my walls, Looking posters. You know, like $6 Million Man, A-Team. Then randomly there would be like Madonna. Yeah.
Yeah.
Early Madonna. You know.
It's kind of weird. That kind of thing's gone now. I mean, what is the alternative? People going onto the internet to kind of
internet.
Yeah.
Internet.
Yeah. That's a beautiful cover. I mean, they were beautiful covers. I mean, I loved the artwork in those strips. You know, the A-Team strips, Knight Rider. I mean, some great.
Fonz and Benny Hill. That's another one.
Only in Looking would you get the Fonz and Benny Hill. Fantastic. I mean, these are early Lookings. I mean, this is before they went, because they changed the logo a couple of times, didn't they?
I don't know. You got Daley Thompson on there, so I don't know if they're that early.
Probably like early 80s, these, I think. Late
Maybe,
70s, early. Well, that's probably 1979, is it? Because that's Greece. Was that 79? I'm not sure. I was very young.
Logan's Run, the TV show. God.
Amazing. And look at that art. That's fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know
the way they laid out the covers. This was years before Photoshop.
Exactly. David
This
Soul
artwork must be somewhere. Like, where though? It's
look at that. That's quite dynamic, isn't it? And energetic.
Yeah. That's great.
So look at that car at the top panel there. That's
fantastic, isn't it? Yeah. That angle. Absolutely brilliant.
I think when I was a kid getting Looking, I wasn't buying it for the comics, unfortunately. And I think a lot of them seem to be 1 or 2 pages, and there seems to be a lot more kind of fluff. I mean, again, I'm looking at this now. I'm thinking, God, I don't remember this artwork.
No, me neither.
I mean, that was early stuff. I mean, some of the quality in the early Lookings was absolutely astounding. It really was.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something you'll have to do in Vyper, Dan. Some like little puzzle pages and things like that, in black and white. Use yourself now. You've got this.
I've got the task now. There's actually I've got an advert for a Vyper 1986 annual, like a mock-up advert for one. So that's in there. It's so much fun to play around with stuff like that.
Yeah. And I dare say you've got a lot of advert ideas that didn't make the cuts that you've got in a for later file, maybe for issue 3 or 4.
I'm adding in last minute a kind of a teaser, a potential next one, but I'll see how it goes down. If people want me to kind of go for it, I'll go for it. If not, we'll see. I think I'll wait for kind of reader reaction to see if they want me to jump back into the Vyper universe.
So to talk about the Kickstarter, because obviously it's not been able to launch yet, but we can give people a little view into it, can't we?
Taster,
talk about it.
Yeah.
So obviously they can get the book itself. Are you offering back issues and Vanguard, other stuff and things like that?
It'll just be Vyper on this one, so you can get the first issues like an add-on for the same price as I did it originally. There's going to be a variant covered by Grant Richards, which I commissioned him ages ago, but that I've finally seen the light of day. There's like a print pack. There's I'm running this thing is if you back it in the first 72 hours, you get like a holographic Vyper logo sticker, which you got them through the other day. They look fantastic.
I bet you they do. I bet you were looking at that, like I said, that typeset. I bet you they're really nice.
So there's lots of stuff in it. Like I said, it's kind of frustrating because I put a lot of work into it. It's just sitting there ready to go. But
Yeah.
I was hoping it was going to be like we were going to be mid-campaign when we did this show. But
naughty, a little bit of boobs there.
Bit of boobs. And then I'm going to offer up you. I did you a portrait, Shane.
You did, thank you.
The synthwave portrait, and you'll be able to buy that yourself if you at one of the backer levels.
Oh, I think I might have to. It would be rude not to, wouldn't it?
Yeah. No worries. So people do like to portray stuff like that. I feel like with the crowdfunding campaigns, if you give them something at a different price range, so you got something like I just want the comic, so you go in at that level, and you can go right to a really high level where you might be able to run original art. It's not everything's going to be for everyone, but if you give people the choice, they can pick. You don't want to jump from something being £5 to the next one being 50.
No, you want every budget catered for, don't you?
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, that's what we always do, like a digital, which is really cheap. Then if you just want the book, and then it just goes up in increments, you know, right up to, you know, if you want to buy the cover art original, you know, which we did with Hedrick, you know, every level, you know, and there's always someone who will come in at that level and they'll be quite happy, you know, they want the original artwork, or someone might not be able to afford original artwork, so you do something like, I don't know, an A5 sketch or sketch cover, or I mean, is that something you looked at doing, sketch covers, Dan?
I've got some original art on the go. Here's one of them. I drew up.
That's good.
So cool. I can only do a limited amount of them. I think I've got like 4 or 5 because there's only so many hours in a day I can get that done before the campaign finishes. But then we've got like the print packs. I've done the stretch goals where I've commissioned artists. So if it hits a certain level of funding, everyone gets one of the art prints.
Oh, that's cool. So
to kind of try and drive back in the project, but really I just want the comic in people's hands, people reading it, enjoying it.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, really. When you sit on it for so long, I just want people having a laugh and reading it. But
it's a relief, isn't it? If you've worked on something for a long time, and then, like you say, if you've had to sit on it for one reason or another, when you finally see people are actually reading it, you're getting feedback. It's very satisfying to know that all that hard work wasn't for nothing. You know,
I found it unbelievable. You know, they did that recent stuff with the Warner Brothers and DC, and it's like these people have been working on these films, and it's just like gone now.
Yeah,
man, that must be tough.
Yeah, that must be tough. Yeah, as a creative person, to have your work just like erased from history, basically.
Yeah, it's just gone. Tax right off. Like,
it's just, it's.
But being a creator-owned project,
it's down to you, mate.
We're all right.
You already got yourself to blame if you pull the plug down.
Like I said, if he pulls it up, it's all on your shoulders. So.
Just one last comment from thanks by the way, Geeko17 for all your comments tonight. I remember going back through some of mine. He's talking about looking, I presume. And was shocked when you see the names who worked on those books. Okay. Some recognizable names. Yes, there were some really, really reputable artists worked on Looking, which is why it was so great. You know, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ollie. You might know. Did John M. Burns do some Looking stuff?
I think he did.
Really?
Yeah, I think he did.
And I'm trying to think of some of the other big names from that era, you know. But there's some really reputable artists worked on Looking, who and of course it was mostly, I think it was all uncredited at the time. Wasn't it?
Man, that sucks. I was going to say whether they got credited or not. I mean, for nowadays you'd be able to look back and see the style and think, oh yeah, that's John Byrne, man.
Arthur Ransom as well. Comic book
Arthur Ransom, and Sam's just informed us. Arthur Ransom did some stuff as well. So I mean, some really decent stuff. Okay, so we are getting towards the end of the show. An hour has gone by already.
Man, that's
all turn into pumpkins if we're not careful.
Yeah, it has flown by. I mean, and we've probably talked about TV more than we've talked about comics, but that's cool. You know, we've had sometimes it's just fun to choose.
Nice having fun. It's all right.
I think it's given everyone a taste of the inspiration that goes behind each issue of Vyper. Certainly, we've mentioned this. We've not even mentioned Drago from Rocky IV. So I think we've done pretty well, haven't we? But I certainly feel like I know a lot more about Viperini and the whole story particularly this upcoming second issue, Dan. I think you
Yeah,
did a really
you,
great
yeah.
job, particularly with that smashing advert, to really sort of put it over to our viewers, the kind of book they're going to get if they're going to back it. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I hope so, yeah.
So I say to folks watching, please do back Dan's Kickstarter. We don't know exactly when it's going to be released yet, but where can people find you online, Dan, if they want to follow you?
If you go to Twitter, it's at Vanguard Comic. I'll be posting up updates on there when it does go live. You can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com, or you can listen to me talk shit each week on the Awesome Comics podcast with Tony and Vince.
Where can we find the Awesome Comics podcast? Because I know that's a big one.
It's on Podbean. You can find it on YouTube. There's various Stitcher. Cool. There's various. Vince says these things every week, and I never fucking take it in. But there's a whole myriad of places where you can find it. If you do search the Awesome Comics podcast, it'll pop up.
Yeah, it's not going to be hard, is it? Thank God for Google, Bing, and all the other ones.
Yeah, God, yeah.
Yeah, they're not evil, honest.
No,
they serve their purpose.
I guess the jury's out on Twitter. We'll see how that goes.
Well, that may well.
Yeah, the jury's out on Elon. Well, any guy who's quite happy to work from. Yeah. Look, that's a whole new other show.
Yeah, that's a whole different subject.
We could do a whole other show about that. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you ever so much, Dan, for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me. Dan. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
It's been a nice hour.
It's been a really good
hour.
chat.
Cheers.
Yeah. All the best with the